Recording in progress.
Hello, folks. We'll be starting in a minute. We'll just give a few more people an opportunity to enter the room.
And we'll get started with a welcoming song.
Want to be fossils too. Burning fuel causes air pollution.
pollution. It's time to embrace a greener solution. Large-scale farming plays a big part. Billions of cows means a whole lot of farts. We need change, it has to be drastic. Cut the production of single-use plastic. 3 million years human evolution. 200 years industrial pollution. One last chance for a green revolution.
It's time to wise up, get our act together. This is so much more than changes in the weather. We say no, no, no more wasting time. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. It's time to wise up, get our act together. This is so much more than changes in the weather. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. And we say no, no, no more wasting time. The time is now. Oh, 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 oh. 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 Now.
Out of the mouths of babes, hey? Yeah, that video gets me all emotional. Welcome to another West Coast Climate Action Network Lunch and Learn, where we explore Indigenous-led climate action initiatives in British Columbia. I'm your host, Sharon Marshall, a mixed heritage entrepreneur, joining you today from the traditional, unceded, and ancestral lands of the Tlingit First Nation of the Coast Salish people. I am the team lead for our First Nations Climate Action Data Quilt project, a map, or data quilt as we call it, of all the First Nations climate action initiatives in BC. Our Lunch and Learn series is our way of celebrating and showcasing the nations that have been at the forefront of environmental stewardship for generations, infusing traditional knowledge with modern practices to protect and preserve our planet for future generations. The West Coast Climate Action Network is a cohesive network of climate action groups, organizations, businesses, and initiatives in British Columbia that share a deep desire to see more urgent action from our local, provincial, and federal governments. Together, we strive to amplify Indigenous voices, elevate community-led solutions, and advocate for policies that prioritize environmentally sustainable and social justice. Environmental sustainability and social justice. Now, let's introduce the Indigenous engagement team. As mentioned, I am the team lead, and I'll pass the microphone to Guy.
Hi there, welcome. I'm Guy Dauncey. I'm one of the founders of We Can. Really happy to work with this team, and I'll pass it on to Tara.
Tara, who always struggles to unmute herself or mute herself. Thank you so much, Guy, and welcome everyone. My name is Tara Shishtarian, and I'm coming to you from the unceded traditional ancestral territories of the Hunkaminam and Squamish speaking peoples, the Tsleil-Waututh, the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Coquitlam nations. And I'll pass it on to our team lead for the Indigenous team, that's Catherine Maas. Thank you.
Thanks, Tara. This is Catherine. I'm speaking to you today from the unceded lands of the, sorry, drawing a blank on this. I've said this about 5,000 times. The Lekwungen speaking people, very near mile 0 on the Trans-Canada Highway. And I'll pass it to Jessica.
Hi, my name is Jessica. I'm from the Okanagan, the Silks Okanagan Nation.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, everyone. And our network coordinator, Monica.
Hi, everybody. I'm Monica. I'm your tech support for today. So you'll see in my name there, it says tech. So if you have any difficulties, you can just find me under participants under tech. I'm the WeCan coordinator and I support all of the teams at WeCan, including the Indigenous engagement team. I'm very happy to be with you here today.
Thank you, Monica. I'd love for everybody to, in the chat, if you can just tell us where you're from, please, so we can get an idea of who's in the room before we get started with Gary's presentation. So we've got Gertie from Victoria. Welcome, Gertie. Colin. Welcome, Squamish and Lillooet. Patrick from Victoria. Guy, yes, we know where you're from, Guy. Roger. Welcome, Roger. You're in Vancouver. And Suzanne from Victoria. Richard is in Fernwood. Maureen, welcome, Maureen. Beverly, you're in Kelowna, welcome. All right. Thank you for that. So before I introduce our guest speaker, let's look at how the rest of this hour will unfold. We'll finish introductions and our guest speaker will have about 30 minutes to present and we'll have about 15 minutes for Q&A. How does that sound to everybody? All right, let's get started. I'd like to first start off by saying that we're thrilled to welcome Gary Gazankis, Executive Vice President of Energy for the Tlingit Homeland Energy Limited. Gary holds a Bachelor of Science degree in electrical engineering. He's also a licensed Red Seal electrician in Canada with 23 years of electric utility experience and has managed renewable generation portfolios throughout Canada and the US. Please welcome Gary Gazankis.
Hi, everyone. Well, certainly start off by, thank you for that introduction, Sharon. Certainly appreciate it. Today, I'm joining you from Whitehorse on the traditional territory of the Tonquachin Council and Tlingit First Nations. So again, thank you for the introduction, and I certainly appreciate and honored to be invited here today. And so I'll dive into the presentation. And yeah, if you have questions, please feel free to ask. So basically, I'll start to share my screen. Can people see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, here's just a brief agenda introduction. So I think we're good there. But basically, I'll talk a little bit about Taco River Tlingit First Nation. I'll talk about the Taco group of companies who I work for. We'll talk about what Taco River Tlingit First Nation is doing to combat climate change and with a focus on renewable energy. We'll chat about how that's created community resilience and obviously the resulting economic benefits from that. And then just a few quick key takeaways is what I've experienced so far, how to drive some of these initiatives. So with that, I'll dive in and go right to here. So Taco River Tlingit First Nation is located in Atlin, BC. It's a small remote community, about 400 people. Territory is significant, covers over 400,000 square kilometers, includes British Columbia, Yukon, and Alaska. It's absolutely gorgeous. If anyone's ever visited Atlin, it's wonderful. It's high mountains, expansive forests, wildlife, salmon-rich filled rivers. It's just beautiful. And here's just a map, really, that, you know, it shows Atlin in the purple, or the area, or the actual Taku River Tlingit area. It doesn't show it going into BC or the US, but it does. Also shows Atlin highlighted on here as well. So, I mean, as I said before, it's beautiful. Diversity of natural resources is incredible. Actually, this picture was taken outside my hotel room last week. So you can imagine this wasn't something that I photoshopped off the internet. This was from my iPhone last Wednesday when I was in the community. So if anyone ever has the opportunity to go to Atlin, please do. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I'll talk a little bit about the Taku group of companies. So Taku group of companies are made up essentially of 3 companies, and the Taku River Tlingit First Nation is the key shareholder. And their you know, prime directive is, as responsible decision makers, we are embarking on a course necessary to ensure the preservation of our wildlife and fisheries, with an emphasis of preservation of our wildlife and fisheries. This will assist us ensuring the preservation of what is Tlingit. So basically, I mentioned the 3 main companies: the Atlin Tlingit Economic Limited Partnership, which is really the development corporation. We've got fuel services, construction services, and other services, you know, propane dispensary, et cetera, et cetera. The next one I can't pronounce very well, but I believe in Tlingit language, it's Lightning LP. It's the actual existing hydro facility, and that's what I'll talk to about in this presentation. And the last one, which, you know, myself, I'm driving, is I'm part of the Tlingit Homeland Energy Limited Partnership, and that's the new potential hydro project. It's not being constructed yet, but we're in the development stage, and we have 60% or 70% engineering already completed. Hope to go to construction in 2025. So with that, you know, here's you know, our efforts in combating climate change. You know, we've taken the renewable energy path, and you know, specifically with hydro generation, I think that's the key for us. You know, I'll talk a bit about the history, talk about our existing facility. I'll talk about our proposed new facility, as well as I'll talk about our other initiatives in terms of working with the mining companies in developing micro hydro or other renewable energy sources, rather than the use of fossil fuel generated electricity. And then lastly, I'll delve into a little bit of our green hydrogen pilot project that we're currently doing a feasibility assessment on. So the history. So over 100 years ago, oddly enough, Atlin was self-sufficient community on its own micro hydro dam. Generations later, of course, we've realized our errors in going towards diesel fuel, and we've moved back to micro hydropower. So previously, prior to 2009, the prime power source for Atlin was diesel generation. Here's a picture on the right of the diesel generating facility that's owned by BC Hydro. It was built in 1978, high maintenance cost. We burned approximately 1.3 million liters of diesel per year, so significant. And associated with that are all the environmental risks of transporting and storing that fuel. So what we decided to do, this predates me, of course, but what the nation decided to do was move towards renewable energy. And so what they did in an effort to combat climate change is they chose a renewable energy path. And what that meant was replacing the diesel generating station with a hydro generating station. So in 2009, they constructed a 2 megawatt hydro generating facility and built with enough generation to supply the entire community of Atlin with some future potential in the design. So additionally with that, the greenhouse gas emissions were reduced by about 4,000 tons a year. And obviously that would have increased every year as energy demand increased in the community. This amounted to over 120,000 tons of GHGs over the next 20 to 25 years. And more importantly, I think of all of this is it really created a a legacy for the nation, one which future projects could be built from. And we became national experts in Indigenous clean energy as a result. And so from that, building on that, and where we are today, we have a proposed new hydro facility. So if you look at the chart or the picture on the right, you can see that there's an orangish yellow line where, if you can see my cursor going down, this was the existing hydro facility that was built in 2009. And now and this is a 2 megawatt facility. Now what we're proposing is a much larger facility, and with an intake up at Surprise Lake, 18 kilometers of what's called penstock to take the water from the lake down to the powerhouse. And we're looking at 9.3 megawatts of power. However, this power won't be sold into the community. What it'll happen is it'll be directly connected to the Yukon power grid. And so currently the Yukon is in somewhat of an energy crisis. Every year they have to rent 20 to 25 diesel generators, temporary diesel generators, just to supply peak demand when it gets extremely cold out. So part of this, although this won't eliminate all the rentals, it'll eliminate close to 6 of them. So with that, the benefits, with the new hydro facility, the proposed environmental benefits. So essentially, we're taking 300 million liters of diesel off the road. That's over 9 million liters of diesel off the highway every year for the next 40 years. So additionally to that, say goodbye to over 1 million tons of greenhouse gases. So over a lifespan, it'll prevent more than 1 million tons of greenhouse gases from being created to power southern Yukon. So that's 27,000 tons a year. So this project will serve to substantially reduce the southern Yukon's reliance on non-renewable energy each winter, which is phenomenal. So furthermore, this proposed hydro project has benefits in environmental monitoring and stewardship. The Surprise Lake ecosystem is a renewable bounty for the area that is rich in resource extraction and present-day exploration. This Atlin hydro project will introduce extensive monitoring to the ecosystem and ensure that there's no unintended impacts as a result of the construction and the operations on a go forward. This investment is a stewardship. This investment in stewardship represents an opportunity to learn more about the land, and moreover, to educate new generation of environmental voices about the unique gifts the land provides. So we're really taking advantage of this opportunity to teach and educate the youth in the area, such that there's benefits realized for generations to come. So now stepping out of hydro, other initiatives that we're currently working on is a green hydrogen project. So basically, what green hydrogen is, it's achieved through the process of electrolysis. It's powered by renewable energies such as hydrogen. So there's other types of hydrogen out there that are made. There's blue and black hydrogen. Basically, that's any hydrogen created without renewable sources of energy. So the rationale for green is because it's created by these renewable energy such as hydro, wind, and solar. So in simplistic form, this electrolysis process involves using an electrical current to split water into hydrogen and oxygen using renewable energy. The wonderful thing about it is the only byproduct of the process is water, resulting in clean, sustainable system in which zero CO2 is emitted to produce energy. And so our project, what is it? Well, it's driven by an excess of hydrogen generation. So if you look at the picture on the right, that's our existing hydro facility. This is the 2 megawatt hydro facility built in 2009. And right now, it was built such that it has more generation than the community can handle. And so what we're doing to balance that load and generation is we actually dissipate some of the power out of a resistor bank or a load bank, meaning it's wasted electricity. So what we want to do is utilize that wasted electricity to actually create that green hydrogen. So basically, if you look at the diagram, we'll have an electrolysis system, which I just explained, a storage facility, and then what we're going to do is have just a simple hydrogen-driven vehicle that as a pilot project that the community will own. And in comparison, hydrogen fueled vehicles are comparable to cars running on regular gas. They're quick to refuel, taking between 3 to 5 minutes, and have an average range of 700 kilometers. So that's our pilot project right now. We hope to have that back up online and running in the summer or late fall 2025. So with all this renewable energy initiatives, we've created a community resilience. Now, by means of, the adoption of renewable energy is a significant change that can enhance the resilience of First Nations communities. These projects provide a reliable source of energy that can be crucial in remote or off-grid locations. They reduce the dependency on external suppliers and increasing self-sufficiency and essentially creating that energy sovereignty or energy independence. And obviously, we all know global challenges and economic fluctuations with respect to climate change, and those seem to be rapidly evolving. These renewable energy projects offer a stable and adaptable infrastructure that can help communities withstand and recover from adverse conditions. And so the reason I just show the plow with the snow is that, every year, this year has been an anomaly where the temperature is extremely warm, so we haven't had much snow. But last year was again another anomaly where we had record amounts. And so all of these renewable energy initiatives and projects help create that community resilience for the First Nation and the surrounding community. So the benefits of renewable energy, well, new permanent quality jobs. Quality jobs can have a transformational impact on entire families. They strengthen the community overall for generations. This brand new Atlin hydro expansion project will create 4 to 6 quality permanent full-time jobs in maintenance and operations. That's stable, reliable employment for the next 4 decades, which is incredible for a community of 400. It's life-changing construction experience. We know that working on this project will have a hugely positive impact on the people from Atlin. We'll have contractors and skilled trades on site. So there'll be that skilled training and hands-on direct work experience. That'll be a catalyst for future employment options. Again, as I mentioned, experienced builders and contracts and construction professionals are coming to Atlin. It'll be transforming our community into a natural learning and growing environment. This will improve lives, it'll improve families, and together, Atlin's entire future. So, additional benefits, the opportunity and support, this Atlin Hydro project opportunity expands in supporting the construction efforts. So over the 3 years, we'll realize 170 full-time construction jobs that'll end after construction, unfortunately. But Atlin will need outside help to meet the workforce demands. We'll need contractors, and we'll need to feed and house them. We'll also require materials, equipment, repairs, and 100 more needs. Construction, will create opportunities for new businesses within the community. And lastly, with the growing tax base as a result of this project, it's expected it'll contribute over 150,000 annually in property taxes. These will be used for the region's school and community improvement-based programs. That's more than 6 million property taxes to strengthen and improve Atlin for everyone. So, boy, I'm skipping through this pretty quick. But as I've got to learn through working with the Power Corps and working with this group of companies, the key takeaways I've had being here so far is, really understanding what playing field people want to be on, whether that's green hydrogen, whether that's hydro, whether that's wind, or other sustainable type of projects like vertical farming, et cetera, et cetera. And so, define what you want, what playing field you want to be on. Obtain that support from the community is absolutely critical. That's one of the wonderful things about Taco River Tlingit First Nation, is that the support is there for these projects and these initiatives, and they're really leaders in supporting the Development Corps in actually realizing these projects. The third one on here, which is extremely important, and what we've been able to obtain is actual funding. the Atlin hydro expansion project, the big project we're working on now that I explained, it's a significant expenditure. The project is over $250 million. It's approaching 300 million right now. And we've obtained funding for $250 million of that. Part of it is it's incredible. And so part of that funding is grant funding. And part of it is with low interest Canadian Infrastructure Bank loans. That loan totals $80 million. So essentially, when the project goes into operation, all we will owe in debt is the $80 million on the Infrastructure Bank. The rest will be all through grant funds, which is phenomenal. The other aspect of this is starting small. I mean, if you look at, just the historical aspect of where, Taco River, Tlingit First Nation came from, hydro 100 years ago, they went towards, thermal and diesel burning, generators for electricity. But someone had a vision to, look at replacing that with small hydro. And that's exactly what they did. And now that's leveraged because we have the experience to be able to now move forward with a much larger hydro project. And who knows what the future will hold in terms of other energy initiatives. And so we've become experts in that. And what it's allowed us to do is really expand and continue on our journey with renewable energy projects and in the renewables space as well. So with that, I think I went fairly quick, but I guess I can open it up to questions.
Thank you for that, Gary. That was an incredible presentation, and I'm so inspired. Your story is an inspiration, but also an inspiration to other communities. I see that Patricia has a couple of questions here. Patricia, you can just unmic if you like, or I can ask the questions that you've put in the chat. All right, I can ask the questions. Okay. Has drought affected your operations at all? And do you use the green hydrogen primarily for vehicles, or are there other applications?
The drought hasn't impacted our hydro facility whatsoever. There are low water years, we call them. In those years, unfortunately, there is the diesel generating station does still remain in the event we have an outage on our hydro facility. And so if that happens and we don't have the water, the sufficient amount of water, we would turn on the diesel generating station. But that's absolutely extremely rare. With climate change doesn't necessarily mean drought. In my opinion, it means extreme weather events. And what that does is it really does fill the reservoirs because we get a ton of rain. So we would see maybe potentially more flooding rather than less. And from a hydro perspective, the flooding is not beneficial. Don't get me wrong, but what it does is it does fill the reservoirs.
Right. And then the other question was, do you use the green hydrogen primarily for vehicles, or are there other applications?
There's definitely other applications. For our application alone, it's a pilot project because we have to, again, as per my takeaways, we do have to start small. And so we're starting with just basically creating the green hydrogen, storing it, and then using it as a pilot project on the vehicle. But green hydrogen can be used for a number of things. It can be used for electrical, generation. There's new projects or new equipment that uses green hydrogen as a gas rather than diesel. It's still fairly new and it's in its infancy state, but I would suspect in the future we will see a lot more hydrogen burning generators as a result of green hydrogen production. Also, it's used in a lot of manufacturing facilities and steel making. And so rather than, dirty hydrogen, I'll call it, a lot of the industry will start, if there's a product on the market, you can sell green hydrogen. The part of the challenge is still transport. There's still a lot of technical challenges in around that with green hydrogen. It's still again, overall itself in its infancy state. But I suspect in the future, there's also converting it to ammonia and transporting it that way, and using it, ammonia as a fuel as well, or in any type of a production of or manufacturing process. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
Was that, did that answer that? Did that answer the question, Patricia? All right. And so then Roger has a couple of questions. Do you want to ask them yourself, Roger, or should I?
Oh, sure, I'll ask them. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for this opportunity. I'm wondering if BC Hydro was involved in the first or in the expansion project, and what assistance or resistance you ran into with that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, BC Hydro is absolutely involved. They're the distributor in the community. I think in our long-term strategic plan, we'd like to actually be the owner and operator of that distribution system, but that's not today. Baby steps. But we do have an energy purchase agreement with BC Hydro on the old facility, the 2 megawatt facility, and they welcomed that based on the fact that A, it was Indigenous owned, and B, it was a reduction in fossil fuel burning diesel generation and GHG reductions. Similarly, for the new 9 megawatt hydro project, BC Hydro is not too much involved, only because we're connecting directly to the Yukon Yukon grid. So Yukon Energy is directly involved, but again, we have an EPA sign with Yukon Energy, and they're welcoming it because of the energy emergency, I would call it, that's currently happening in the Yukon at this point in time.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Tara, you've got your hand up. You can go next, please.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. So thank you very much for that presentation, Gary. It's been so educative, and I was really interested to know, you said that there would be, I think, 4 to 6 permanent jobs created with this new, is it hydrogen development or the hydro project, basically? And I was wondering, is there, for the nation itself, is there a facility where, local residents could be trained in, maintenance work and, the trades within the area, so that there's, job creation more than just the 4 to 6 jobs? Thank you.
No, it's a great question. I think, the first part of it is, just to be clear, the 4 to 6 jobs will be with respect to the new hydro project in itself. Those will be operating and maintenance jobs. And so we will require tradespersons for those positions. At current, we don't have a training facility. It's really on the job training. The training facility would be actually the actual hydro facility. Which is wonderful, but you raise a great question and a good comment in that's something that, from just an overall capacity building perspective within the First Nation community, it would be wonderful to see some of the tax dollars that have been spent via the project go towards those types of programs and initiatives, for sure.
Thank you, Tara. Guy.
Yeah, thanks, Gary, for this. I can be pretty technical, nerdy on some of the stuff, but the first thing that comes to me is what could be a complex relationship with the leadership of the Tlingit First Nation and the people in the band. So what does it take to involve people in planning and financing something as sophisticated and high tech as this? Do you send people away to go training college to get the electrical skills and stuff like that? Or is there a project, similar to what Tara's saying, a plan to sort of build a real base of technical skills that gets passed down through the families and stuff within the Tlingit First Nation?
Well, I think that your first part, there are 2 parts to that. The first part is really that community support and the support with the nation, and really it's about it's really about getting in front of people and explaining, why this is being done, what the significant benefits are, generational wealth, energy sovereignty, and all those wonderful things that are actually, because we built the 2 megawatt facility, that they're actually realizing some of these things. And so it was a mere stepping stone to jump up to the 9 megawatt facility. And although we still put a lot of work into the open houses and the communications, we continuously take resumes, we ask for people to come forward in advance of the new project so they can get that hands-on experience during construction. So there's nothing better than someone learning on the construction site how a generating station goes together, and then afterwards operating and maintaining it. So that's our intention. I think that, from a visionary perspective, and the Tara's comment and question around a training facility, I think we don't have that. I think the individuals would be, trained on the job, hopefully through construction, then well into operations, and we would send them away to training schools. I mean, they've got the Yukon University here with the electrical trades program within, which is a great program. But obviously the BCITs, places like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great comment, and something that I'm going to actually bring forward. I'm glad, I'm learning on this is two-way conversation, that I'll definitely bring this forward to the nation, because I think it's a wonderful idea.
And there's a follow-up around the governance. I believe it was the Taku Energy Corporation. I may have got the name wrong. Is that energy corporation fully owned by the Tlingit, and you're a partner with them on? And who sits on the board? How many people from the First Nation sit on the governance board?
Yeah, so there's the Taku. So there's the FEL. It's the Tlingit Homeland Energy Limited Partnership. That I'll just use that as an example. That is the limited partnership where the First Nation is still the key shareholder for that. It's a limited partnership because we want, obviously, protection of the First Nation if anything goes wrong within the limited partnership. Yeah. So there's that division.
Yeah.
We do have a board for these limited partnerships and an overall trustee, and we do have all the governance documents, policies, procedures within. And we're currently looking at with the new project creating a trust, and just to make sure that those funds are held in trust, and the funds will be governed by the First Nation as to how they're used within the community for program development, et cetera. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. I got a couple more, but I'll leave them for now and let Catherine go. Right.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, I've been not paying too much attention to hydrogen fueled vehicles, mainly because of my concern about where the hydrogen was coming from. So what you had to say about that, I found really interesting. It makes me wonder, how available are hydrogen? Maybe you can answer this and maybe you can't. I might be asking you questions that are outside your scope, but I'm curious about their availability. How available are they? And how do they compare in costs with EVs? And do you know if there's any talk about subsidies around hydrogen fueled vehicles?
So I think, I'm not sure about the comparison between the cost of a hydrogen vehicle versus an EV. I do know that in the north, EVs don't work very well. I've worked my previous company. We had an EV shuttle that would take the passengers, the tourists from the airport to the hotel, and when -40 weather, -45 weather in Whitehorse, they just didn't work very well, unfortunately. And so the hydrogen vehicles are, like I mentioned in the presentation, are much like regular combustion engines, in that takes very little time to fill, and they have the same type of range-ish, give or take. Certainly not an expert on that at this point, but I would see in the future, I think green hydrogen is really starting to take shape. I think there are a number of significant projects in Canada, specifically on the East Coast and the Maritimes, where there was an announcement for a huge green hydrogen production facility in, I believe, Nova Scotia. So I think it's coming to the forefront. I think that you're going to see a lot of grant funding for hydrogen in the future. And I think in certain areas, you would maybe see a transition, or at least a balance between, depending on geography, a balance between hydrogen-driven vehicles and EVs. Although hydrogen, again, I think is still well in its kind of its infancy state, but I think you're going to see a lot of movement over the next 5 to 10 years for sure in the hydrogen space.
Thanks for that.
Yep.
Awesome. Roger, you've got your hand up.
Thank you. Second question, on your 400 kilowatts of excess electricity that you generate, Gary, has some of the consideration been given to local food production, whether it's greenhouses or self-enclosed, lit and heated areas? It seems that kind of just dumping it into a resistor bank doesn't seem the most elegant solution. I'm just wondering what other ideas there are. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's a great question, and we've tossed a bunch of ideas out there around this, and part of it was looking at vertical farming and the farming containers and using it for that. We at one point thought about using it to everyone knows the term Bitcoin, but Bitcoin server farm, then reclaiming the heat from those to actually use with the vertical farming. So there's that compounded effect with reclaiming the heat from the server farms. And so right now, we haven't implemented any of these things. It's more, we're just tossing around the ideas of what to do with that, because we've recognized that it is a waste and that we should be doing something with that energy. And so we've really landed on the green hydrogen because a product for now. I think it's a great test. The further to that, the new hydro facility, will be pushing energy to the Yukon primarily during the winter months, and in the summer months we're going to have energy that they may not need. And so we're going to look at having what to do with any excess water during those periods. So I think that to your point and your examples, we'll be looking towards some type of server farms or farming initiatives around that. So we fully utilize the technology that's there.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Guy.
Yeah, still on the same theme as Roger on the technical side of things. How are the buildings heated in Atlin?
Electric heat primarily. Electric heat. And wood fired stoves. So there's not a lot of fuel oil burning furnaces in Atlin. I mean, electric heat is not ideal in most regions, but here it is ideal because we have the excess energy and we're delivering green energy to the community.
Yeah, so that makes sense. I was going to think if there's buildings being heated by oil or gas, you could have a whole heat pump revolution going on there.
Yeah.
The piece around the vehicle transition. So first of all, there's been quite a lot of stuff in the news, especially following the big cold spell we had a month ago, about how electric vehicles handle the cold. Mm-hmm. And the news is they handle it really well. I mean, Norway is the leader for electric vehicles in the world. And the story from people who've driven up to Whitehorse and stuff like that is that regular cars, they can't even start in the cold because they're frozen stiff. And so there's a lot of progress on that front. But I also wonder, because there's progress on trucks, electric trucks, and they're going to be taken off all over the place. And they've got range of, between 200 miles and 500 miles, which is, up to 700 kilometers. Are you maybe going down a blind alley with the hydrogen truck when electric trucks, which you could use the electricity directly and for other local vehicles, maybe where the future is going and not towards hydrogen? Because then you wouldn't need to lose energy in the conversion process. And linked to that, if you've got surplus energy, the progress on battery storage systems, the price is coming down for big battery storage systems quite considerably. Because shipping excess hydrogen out from Atlin has to be a really complex process. I mean, you have to have trucks that can store the hydrogen. You have to have a regular seller that's guaranteed for 20, 30 years because of your investment boundaries around, needing to get a steady payback on that 300 million. And if the hydrogen market is wobbly, although I would hope that green hydrogen would certainly outcompete any blue, gray, or black hydrogen, because it's certainly the way to go. But yeah, a whole little complex of questions around the hydrogen thing for you.
Yeah, no, those are great questions. And I think for us, just speaking through experience, and to your point, you're right. The technology for EVs is getting better for colder climates. There's no question. I'm only speaking through experience where, where the company I used to work for is actually returning the electric vehicle. And I don't want to paint that in a bad picture.
Yeah.
And so that certainly wasn't my intention, and hopefully, because I do believe it, I do believe in them. It's just a matter of choosing one thing to move forward with. I think for us, we just, we've done a little bit of research on green hydrogen, and we felt that, that might be the best play for us at this point in time. Just not really we're still in the feasibility stages, and it is only a pilot project. So I think that for us, we can certainly change on a dime in the future. I mean, I would hate to put, being that it is pilot and it is a very small stepping stone, because one of the alternatives someone had raised is actually, getting an EV and using the excess for charging stations, which would be probably much simpler than green hydrogen and the electrolysis component and process, right? And storage, et cetera. But with the mining activity in the area as well, we just felt that there's a lot of heavy exploration and mining activity, and potentially in the future, if you look at mining vehicles and hydrogen-driven mining vehicles, and similarly on the EV side, for sure. Yeah. But that was kind of why we led ourselves down this path. We felt that locally, we may have a better avenue with the green hydrogen as opposed to the EV.
Yeah, I would keep a close track on the mining vehicles, because I read somewhere that because when they're going up and downhill, and they may be going uphill empty and coming downhill with load, the regenerative braking is such a benefit for electric vehicles, which you don't get in a hydrogen vehicle. Yeah,
true.
That's anyway, true. I'll pass over to Monica and Catherine.
Thank you, Guy. I'm going to read Patricia's question in the chat first before Monica and Catherine go. Gary, you mentioned data server farms. Is that a potentially large economic opportunity for all northern communities?
I think it is. I think that I think if it's coupled with other opportunities like reclaiming the heat, because they use an enormous amount of heat, and using it for the vertical type farming, I think that there's no question. It's a bit risky though. I mean, it's Bitcoin and all these other cryptocurrencies that are still, somewhat, I see Roger smiling and everyone else. And so there's some caution there. And obviously we're proceeding, very slowly on that. It was just a brainstorming ideas during our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis that we did earlier in the year, just to brainstorm, flesh out all the ideas. But it's definitely opportunities for a lot of northern communities communities at large, regardless of northern or not. I think that, part of the challenge could be having the electricity and the energy that's required to be able to power up these server farms, because they do require a lot of energy. And so I think that's a challenge for sure. And then the other side is, reclaiming that energy, the heat in particular, for some other use, just so you're taking advantage of, that full suite of opportunities.
Right. Well, thank you for that, Gary. Monica.
Yeah, hi, thank you very much. My question is a little bit like the previous one, in that I'm wondering if you've had much interest from other communities, First Nations communities or any communities anywhere around in the province, about what you're doing and maybe copying you or following in your footsteps. And then kind of a part two of that is, how scalable do you think, what you've done is? You talked about receiving huge grants. Is that something that would be easily replicable by another community, or did you just get lucky and get the lion's share? Like, is this something that we could see, using you as your experience with the community and the corporation as a template? Or how do you see that?
That's my question exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the first question around, our experience and communities in other community engagement, et cetera, it's really caught traction in the Yukon. We've got 11 of the 14 First Nations up here that are self-determining and very proactive with development corporations. And so, with the Council of Yukon First Nations, there's now committees that have been formed around energy and energy initiatives. And so it's really caught on, and they recognize that it's not about the power corporations, owning and operating the utilities anymore. It's about First Nations ownership, and so that's key. And so from an overall engagement, there's a lot of traction, and there's a sense of togetherness that's coming together nicely in the Yukon. Obviously, there's challenges forming any committee, but I get a really good sense that there's solid momentum there. So hopefully that answers the first question. And the second question, just around using our learnings as some form of template. I do know, like, I wasn't here at the start. The new hydro facility, this has been in the works, for a long time, since 2016. So, something of significance like this takes a long time and a lot of heavy lifting. In part, I think there could be some form of template, there's absolutely learnings, and there's no question that I'd be willing, and others would be willing, to sit down with whomever's interested in any types of these initiatives, to step them through what's going on and how we've came to this point in time. But with ever-changing governments and funding, certainty, that all changes and flips in and out. There's different programs that end. There's programs that start. So it's a challenge to, around the funding side, to say that, hey, we've realized all of these streams. You could expect to realize the same. That's probably not the case, because of the ever-changing, landscape in government and funding programs, right? So, but hey, I'm a firm believer of supporting and lessons learned and having conversations with whoever else is interested, and lending our thoughts and the process we went down. I have no issue with that whatsoever, and nor does anyone on the team here. We're all for it.
Thank you very much.
Great news, Gary. Thank you. We're getting close to the hour, and so I think we have time for one or two more questions. Catherine, you have your hand up.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm loving it that we're getting into the community consulting piece of this, because that's been a big burning question for me. Can you talk a little bit about what kind of consultation happened in the community? How did that go? Who was involved? And what did you learn from that you might be able to pass on to others?
Right. I mean, the consultation, there was a consultation plan that was developed. It was developed, with the CEO and the project team at the time. They've since moved on from the project, but it was a fairly comprehensive plan, and obviously it involved open houses, engagement, and with Taku River Tlingit specifically, we hired a project, or they mandated that we hire a project review committee or a project review group to look at, paid for by the project, to look at all of the potential impacts that the project may have. So we hired a specific group that worked directly for the First Nation, that actually looked at all the potential impacts, put together mitigation measures and recommendations to the nation, And we've taken those now and we'll implement them as part of the project. And so it was a pretty significant undertaking. I think that, you know, in terms of, you know, lessons learned, I think that the earlier, the better. I think that, you know, we got in front of it, from my understanding, and I guess in my opinion, from an outsider looking in, they did a wonderful job and they worked very hard. And we're at today, where we are today as a result of their hard work and collaboration with the First Nation. But I think that, you know, I truly believe that getting in front of the First Nation earlier would have been beneficial, because I think it was a little late in the game when the consultations had started. And even though the nation was 100%, you know, it'll be 100% First Nation owned as a key shareholder, it was still probably late in the game. And that's why, as part of my takeaways, it was, I think one of the bullets, one of the line items really states that, you know, obtaining that support, doing that consultation early is imperative.
Great. Thanks so much.
Wow, this has been an incredible hour. It went by so fast. I can't believe it's almost 1 o'clock. It's time for us to wrap this up. And Gary, I just want to thank you so much for joining us and informing us on your amazing projects. And I hope that we hear more from you in the future. And I'm going to pass it on to Monica, who's going to, oh, Tara, oh, you're clapping. Okay, that's good. Just want to let you know that the video of this Lunch and Learn, because this is being recorded, it's going to be posted on our website in a couple of days. And I will just put our website in the chat. And so for those of you who haven't looked us up, you can find us here and look for the video here. And thank you for joining us. Our next Lunch and Learn is on April 5th, noon Pacific. And we're excited to learn about the Tudeka geothermal project of the Fort Nelson First Nation. And we hope to see you all there.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Gary.
That was great. I certainly appreciate it, being invited to this event. That was wonderful. And if anyone ever wants to reach out, please feel free to do so. And my door is always open. So open, if you have other questions and you want to run by me or just have a general conversation, please feel free to do so.
Gary,
Thank
do you
you.
want to paste some contact
very much.
information into the chat, maybe, so people will know how to reach you?
Sure,
Mhm.
I can
Great
absolutely do
idea.
that.
I put a piece in the chat about the terrible noise that Bitcoin mining operations make as well.
Perfect.
Drives the
for that.
neighbors crazy.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Oh, Gary's putting his information in the chat.
Yeah.
That's I'll just type my email, gary.gazankas@takucore.ca. And so please feel free to reach out. And yeah, perfect.
That's great. Thank you for being so generous in your willingness to share.
Oh, it's awesome. This
It
is
was
great.
great.
I love it.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, bye.
Take care. Have a great weekend, everyone.
You as
too.
well.
Thank you.